Hi everyone, my name is Diane and I am Programs Manager here at Enterprise Nation. Hopefully I'm going to be sharing with you a few bits and pieces if you're not already currently online, a way for you to be more online kind of blended. So we're going to talk a little bit about bringing your business online for the current moment, but also how you can pivot that for future growth. So a little bit about me. I joined Enterprise Nation in August. Prior to that, I had my own business in Hong Kong. So I recently came back to London from Hong Kong, and I'm going to go through what I did when I set up. A lot of the content I'll be sharing with you today is also coming from our Enterprise Nation e-learning platform, the Amazon Small Business Accelerator. And at the end of this session, Lucy will share with you the full module, which also includes how to master email marketing, which I can't cover in this session because it will go on a little bit longer and I've got half an hour here. So what I'll do with you today is go through a few bits that can kind of get you started online. So at least you have some digital presence, and that's really the focus of the talk today. So as I mentioned, this content is coming from our Bringing Your Business Online module, the Amazon Small Business Accelerator that we created. And this is all around building your digital footprint. So the first thing I'm going to come and talk to you about, and I'll be switching between a few tabs. If I am going too quickly, please, Deborah, go ahead and let me know as I'm flicking between the screens. But there's some things online that I'd love to demo with you today. So the first thing we're going to touch on is how to secure and host a domain. So you must know that with a website, it is hosted on a server, cloud typically, and you have a domain name, which is your URL. So it's the long letters that you're typing in your search bar potentially. It's basically what you see and people see when they go to your website. So the thing we're thinking about is, what would your domain name be? So I'm speaking to you as all business owners or potential business owners. So you may have an idea or already have a business with a business name. So your domain name should be a relation to that, but there's options to get creative. I'm going to walk through some of those bits and pieces with you now. So the first thing to think about is your business, what it does, and is your domain name available? So the easiest thing to do here is go ahead and go to either your search bar here, which you can see, and Google potentially your domain name. So what I'm going to share with you today is, like, let's pretend we are setting up a florist. So we're thinking that we're going to set up a florist called Floral Gifts. So we want to have a check to see, you can either do that in your Google search or go straight to a domain hoster like Godaddy. There's a few here, so it doesn't have to be Godaddy, but this is one that we work with at Enterprise Nation as well. So we're thinking, okay, we've got our florist, or we're selling plants, and we want this to be gifting for Christmas. So we're going to go ahead and think floral gifts. Let's see if that's available for us. So it's thinking about it. Okay, so we know that floralgifts.co.uk is taken. You still might be able to buy it, but it's going to be quite expensive. And as you're just setting up online, you might not want to have a full outlay of costs for a domain name. You can see there sort of that brokerage service would be at least £90, which is pretty steep considering, you know, at this point we haven't even got our annual fee. So then the great thing about what we're working with through sort of GoDaddy and some of the other domain hosting sites is that they'll give you suggestions about what you could potentially use instead. So here we have a couple of options here. So we see, okay, floral gifts is not available, but floral goods is. It doesn't really suit our needs, but we see that floralgifts.store is available. And we know that we're selling online, so this is going to be our shop front. So maybe that's a really nice option instead of floralgifts.co.uk. So one of the things we used to think, I'd probably say maybe 5 or 10 years ago, is that it was important for us to have either a .co.uk or a .com extension. Now we can see here, you can get a bit more creative with the extensions. A lot more extensions have opened up as there's been the internet boom. So you can get creative with your extension and see if it's relevant for your business. So this one we know we want to sell online. and we know they want to be floral gifts. So floralgifts.store is quite a nice option. And we can see that for the fee for that is £1.14. Now, all through GoDaddy, you can go ahead and actually sort of not just buy your domain, but also have it hosted here. So there's quite a few options to be kind of a one-stop shop to sort of start up and get your space online with a platform like GoDaddy. I'm actually going to show you a different hosting option too after this bit, but just to let you know, you can be in one place to do this. So we're kind of interested with floralgifts.store, and we can see some other options too. So floralstore.co.uk also works really well and is also cheaper. So get creative with your extension. It doesn't have to be specifically the .co.uk anymore. A few examples here as well. So you can see, I mean, the list is endless, and it needs to be something that you feel like will resonate with people. It does have a kind of link to your business. So here, for example, this is Together Dragonflies, which is a marketing business. Now, this actually would work well if it was, say, .solutions or .technology. So there's quite a few different options that you can look at that might resonate with your business and make it easy for people to find you online. So you can, as I just mentioned, you can go ahead and buy that domain with GoDaddy or another domain provider. The important thing is to make sure that you keep it. Let's be optimistic on here. You want to set yourself up for at least a year to know that you are going to be able to have this domain for you, for your customers, for the year ahead. You also should set up maybe the auto renewals so that you're able to keep this domain and not have to worry about it expiring and people not being able to access your website. So that's the first point when you're thinking about bringing your business online, getting your domain, getting it secure, and getting it renewed. So the next thing you should look at is what a website template could look like for you. Now, before we had a lot of options where we could only go ahead and use a developer or web designer to actually build our website. The amazing thing about starting an online business now is you don't have to be technically minded to go ahead and do this. So I'm going to give you an example here of my own. So this is my website, work in progress. It's a career coaching marketplace. And this I built myself using a website template built platform called Weebly. And it can give you everything you basically need as a shopfront for your business. So I have my header here, which links to my email marketing. I have all of the things we do, which is a coach connector, and a carousel of who we work with and what that looks like. And then down here, we have the blog posts as well. Further down the footer, where all the social media handles are, and about us as well. So just a point here, you'll see that the website's called Work in Progress, but the domain is imawhip.com. The reason I've done that is because you can imagine workinprogress.com was taken a long time ago, but what we wanted to say is how everyone's a work in progress. So we've gone ahead and called it I'm a whip, so like an abbreviation of that. And it works really well for handles that are your social media handles, as well as just kind of in conversation. It's kind of a way of having it stick with people. So when people are thinking about whether they're looking at their new career options. So as I mentioned, I've done this myself using a website builder. I'm going to walk through how you can do something similar. So first, go ahead and choose your platform. Now, there are loads on offer nowadays, and a lot of them are just like working in PowerPoint. It's probably the easiest way I can explain it, is that it's drag and drop. You upload images. You can use a framework that already exists. WordPress is probably the one that a lot of people have heard of before. It's a little bit more challenging. I would recommend it for people who have maybe a bit of coding experience or are working with a designer maybe or developer, because there's so many plugins, there's so many APIs you can add to that. So WordPress is a little bit more know-how needs to go into. But others such as Wix and Weebly and Squarespace, strikingly as well, are really easy to get started on, and you can set up a website in about half a day. So in this example, I'm going to walk through what it would be like to use Squarespace. So we've already picked out our domain and we've got that with GoDaddy. So that exists, but we can actually plug that into Squarespace, but utilize their templates. So I'm going to show you what Squarespace looks like. So at the top, when you go to the home page, you'll have the products that they offer. So you'll see that they have the hosting. They also have all the information about if you're going to go ahead and put together an e-commerce website, how you sell, how you set up payments, maybe even the email marketing, which is covered in the videos that Lucy will send over. You can also find a domain here. So go through exactly the same steps you've done with Godaddy, you can do here as well. But we've already gone ahead and got floralgifts.store, and we're going to think of our what our template will look like. So you'll go to the top navigation and you can see your products and also your templates. So you'll click on here and it will go through a bit of a diagnostic with you. It'll ask you a few questions about what your business is or what you want your website to do. We're going to just go ahead and browse by popular designs first. And you can see these, as much as they are frameworks, they're really highly designed, and you can have a look and see what one would work for you. I would recommend taking some time over this, because once your template is set, it's very difficult to change. So be considerate, take some time, and think about what your website wants to do. So for us, we want to sell plants and gifts, thinking ahead for Christmas. So we have a look here and we can already see that we've got some what looks like a store-based one. It's closed, but we know we can add our own pictures here. This one here looks a little bit more like a service-based website. It's more like a shop front, an information website for someone's service-based business. This one is more for a portfolio piece for artists. So there's so many options that you can take a look at. So I'm having a look through and I'm thinking, okay, what would work well for us when we set up our store? So what normally works well for a store is somewhere where pictures can be hosted just on the home page. We can see here in this preview, there is what's new in, and there's pictures that we can maybe plug in our own stock into. So this will demo for you. And the nice thing about all of these is that they are able to be mobile ready, kind of out of the box. So we're viewing this right now as desktop, but if we want to look at tablet, it will also show us what it will look like on tablet and also on mobile. This is really important because a lot of people will be accessing your website specifically on mobile. So it's always worth checking to see what the template looks like. So we're going to imagine that these are plants instead of tops here, and let's scroll down. Looks pretty accessible. We can make it, it's nice and clean. It's kind of feeling like our aesthetic. We like the look of that. Let's think that we're going to have very colourful flowers in these pictures. So this white background is looking pretty good for us. And if we have a look on the desktop, it's a lot easier to look at here, and we can see how the different images are looking. And it's clean, but it's maybe a little bit too minimalistic. So we can always go back and pick something else. So, oh, this looks pretty good. We'll have a preview of this. It's having a place, a header where all of our plants can be displayed. And then also a place where it can shop. Still minimalistic, a little bit more of a statement. And we've also got a blog option down here too, which we'll come on to in this session as well, where there's some information of how to care for our plants. So that's looking pretty good to us. So we're probably going to pick that. It's good to make a short list of your preferred themes before you go ahead, and also look again through the shortlist through the eyes of your customer. So we look at it from how we think we'd like it to be, but also think about how accessible can it be to your customer? Does it make sense to them? Does it make sense for them as a consumer? So have a think about how it looks to you, but also get some input from friends and family with some of these templates, and see if they're looking at it as a consumer, if they're looking to buy some plants, stick around on this website with the theme that we've given it. Now, this theme is all linked to your brand and your brand identity, and this is all kind of around the visuals of who you are and what you do. So you want to understand what the messages are you're trying to share. So in our floral gifts store, we want to make the message that we can make beautiful floral gifts, but we're also going to share with them how you can care for your floral arrangements too. So it's going to be a partly selling products, but also informational. So you'll understand as well that you're trying to build an e-commerce site. So as much as you want to give great information and showcase yourself as an expert in your field, you also want to make sure that you're able to sell. So with something like Squarespace, you have all the e-commerce plugged in, but you do need to make sure you've gone ahead and done it through the e-commerce templates and maybe not through a blog template to get started with. You can add some of the themes afterwards. So if you did later on, say for example, you were more of a editorial blog, say you were sharing travel advice, and then suddenly you had merchandise you'd like to sell, you can add that later. But this is probably something you've already come across in your business plan or when you've been thinking about your idea. So be clear about what kind of website you want to build, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's an informational blog, whether it's a portfolio site where people can go and kind of view maybe your art or some of your displays, or a menu site, for example. A portfolio site can really double as a menu for a restaurant or a takeaway option. Or if you're a business service and you want to share the services that you do while also writing about the topics where you're expert in your field. And this all links down to the design and whether that's kind of the right design for you. And this links on, if we've kind of looked about our branding or imagery for our homepage. Now, before it would be quite a struggle and quite expensive to add imagery because you needed to have a photographer. Now, obviously, if you're selling something, I highly recommend that your imagery reflects what you're selling. So it's obviously your product. However, if you have more of a business service and you're keen to kind of include imagery, so maybe imagery of your audience or imagery of kind of what it looks like you at work, there's lots of free options that you can look at to add imagery for your homepage. So it's a way to visually communicate with your customer. So it's a way that your customer can see when they land on your website, just from the images, they understand what you do. So in this imagery, you're trying to look at, okay, what are we trying to sell, whether that's a service or a product, and do these pictures reflect this? Also choose a few characteristics. So what you can do, I'm going to jump into another page here, is look at royalty-free imagery libraries. This one, Unsplash, is really great. The images are high quality and you can really scroll through for all different topics to find what you'd want. So with that in mind, you can think of a few characteristics that you might want to use and that is reflected in your imagery. So as we mentioned before, if we were going for more of a minimalistic feel for our website, and then we were having really bright floral arrangements to share, we might have a really clean template, which is just white or a cream, and then we want to represent imagery that's really bright. So with Unsplash, you can go ahead and search. So we're going to search for flowers, flower bouquets. So we can see these are really great and bright. They look really good against a white. And then what you can start to do is build up your own library of imagery in this way. So in this instance, of course, we're not going to use these flowers as our product images because that's not what we're selling. However, they would be really useful for social media. They would be really useful for our blog pieces where we're kind of explaining about their expertise in our field. So you can start to collect some of these in your own drive maybe, and then you can basically pull these all together. So when you're ready to upload your images, you have some at hand. So definitely create your own library so that it's just a lot quicker for you. This is all the pre-planning before you're ready to launch your site. And go ahead and check out these royalty-free images, the websites that you can find. So there's this one, Unsplash is really great. And then another one called Pexels, that's P-E-X-E-L-S. And they're all free images. They also have video too. So quite useful when you're kind of just setting out, you maybe don't have the resources to fully have a lot of your own images, say photography, that's taken of you and your team, for example. However, I would mention that it is worth having some photos taken of, say, you know, if it was an existing shop that you had or your existing team or you as a founder, this all weaves into the story about what you're trying to sell and who you are. And this leads into kind of why you write a blog and why it's important to keep it fresh. So even if you have an e-commerce site, you think, well, all I want to do is just sell what I have. Writing is kind of not my expertise, but so why would I add sort of written content to my e-commerce site? Now, the reason to do that is to showcase you as an expert in your field, and also to build a reputation that you are to be known for, say, for example, floral arrangements or a business service like an accountant or legal services, so that you're kind of offering free content, free information to build that trust with your customer. Now, you want to do this over a long period of time. So the recommendation for writing any written content is to be evergreen. So evergreen meaning that it doesn't date. It's not signposted in time. It is something that someone could look at in January, June, or December and still be really happy with the content that they're seeing. It's relevant to them in the moment. So there's a couple of examples here. So say, for example, it was around recipes. You were maybe a baker. You're starting to share and sell your cakes online, either for delivery or pickup, but you're also sharing kind of some recipes of your own. So say, for example, the Hummingbird Bakery that's in Tower Hamlets, they also have a cookbook, but they also sell the cakes. So say there was a easy chocolate cake recipe, that works all year round. Now, if it was easy Christmas chocolate cake recipe, that's something that people would only search for sort of in the month of December. You wouldn't get any real hits in January because Christmas is done and dusted. So if you keep it simple in that way, people can find your content in search more likely than it would be if they were doing something really specific. So for example, another one here, how to be more focused at work. If you were to say how to be more focused during lockdown, that's really useful right now, but that's not going to be, well, hopefully it's not going to be evergreen in a year's time or 18 months time. So really think about your evergreen content, things that will be important to people now and in the future. So as I say, if you're thinking about what's important to people now and in the future, so start with your customer. If you're putting together your floral store, what's important to your customer? What will they need to know about care for plants? What would they need to know about looking after bouquets, for example, or how to maybe even set up their own arrangement with the flowers that they've bought? So have a think about your customer and what they want to know. And then just put together really a brain dump of everything, a list, for example, where you just dump all of your ideas about what you think your customer will like. And then you can go ahead and start to prioritize what you're going to write by the keyword search importance. So what you can do here is you don't have to always use, there's a lot of keyword search tools online, but if we're just starting up, we may not want to or need to invest in some of those straight away. So you can go to your Google search bar and type in kind of the first few words of your idea. So if we were thinking of, say, caring for floral arrangements, you want to see kind of what comes up for that search straight away, and have a read through, kind of see what are not repetitive words, but words that really come up quite a bit in a lot of those different topics. And those are your keywords. Keywords are something that helps people search. So it always comes back to the consumer as well. What do people search for? How do they say it? For example, if it's floral arrangements or how to arrange flowers, all of that should be kind of weaved into your content. And again, write with your evergreen hat on so that you feel that people can come back at whatever time. And write quality content. So, you know, take some time over it. I won't say that writing a blog is easy. You know, if you're not, if writing's not your favorite thing to do, it can be a bit of a challenge to start up with, but that's where the brainstorming a list of ideas really comes into play, because this is all stuff that you should, as a business owner, be passionate about and excited about. So once you're thinking about, wow, I really want to share how people can get the best out of my floral arrangements, then you probably have a wealth of information that you can share, and be excited by that. Just be, you know, getting all your thoughts down in paper in the first instance, and maybe utilizing some friends to kind of have a read through it first. Keep it sort of updated and make a habit out of it. So I would say for work in progress, we have a blog too, and that has been updated. It used to be updated every week, and then as we had sort of more traction, update it every month. And so you don't have to be everyday posting, but having a bit of content here, as you can see, means that people can come to you and see you as an expert in your field and maybe have a look and buying from you and uptaking your services. Here we've also got update your content, which sounds like the opposite of what I've said about keeping things evergreen, but actually what it means is just making sure that it's relevant. So if there are things, especially say in digital marketing that you were talking about, for example, if you're a digital marketing service, then you would probably need to revisit this if platforms have changed or updated or new platforms have come about. Another important written page is the About Us page. So the About Us page is somewhere where you tell everyone who you are, what matters to you in the why of what you do, how you do it. So for example, if it's a service or a sales product, why you do what you do and how you get that to the consumer, and kind of what you want to be known for as well. So don't overlook the About Us page. It is actually a really important piece for people, your customers, to get to know you better, to feel like there's some trust and reputation there by learning a bit more about you. So don't skimp on that. It's some place that people actually do go to quite a lot, especially when people are purchasing online. Think of it as what you'd normally have if you were in an actual physical shop, a place where you would share, just chat with customers or share more about what you're doing with customers. You haven't got that option fully in your website, but you do have the option through the About Us page and also through the blog, which is why this written piece of content is quite important. It makes people feel a little bit more secure when purchasing from you. So the best advice for sort of an About Us page is be authentic, talk from sort of the heart, be personable. If it's a professional sort of business service, you can still be personable while being professional. Write in a more conversational way so that people feel like they're purchasing or utilizing the service of a real person. They feel some of the personality and understand that they would, like to work with you, and see it more as a kind of an operation that's not just sort of a cold online business. There's a human element behind it. So being engaging, and you kind of get creative too. So I'll give you an example for About Us here. Hopefully I can get back to it super quick. So for my About Us page, it kind of gives the overview and the mission of Work in Progress, what we do, what the mission is, and then a bit more information about me. And I've took it from kind of the point of view of when I'm starting out in my first career. So it's kind of like interview questions to make it a little bit more engaging, and then a little bit more professionally informative at the bottom. In your About Us page, you can also go ahead and make sure that you have your Contact Us page, which any of your website template builders will give you. So there will always be kind of a Contact Us field as well. And then another web place for you to submit people's emails for newsletter. As I mentioned with the videos that Lucy will share, there's another lesson that talks about mastering email marketing. As I say, much more in depth that we can go into today. We don't quite have the time, but definitely worth looking at that, because having a mailing list for your website to keep your customers informed is really important as well. So make sure you have all of that too. So as I mentioned, it's your kind of story as, you as a founder or you as a business, as a team. It's also a really nice place to add some social proof. So if you have any testimonials, you can pop your social media links down there, any personal information that you think is pertinent to, your business, why you started it, what you're selling, and kind of relevant experience, which is quite useful if you're maybe a business service. It is useful to say what your background is so that people feel trusted to go ahead and take up your services there. And also a photo of you. It's always good to have, put a name to the face. I think people say that anyway, and I think that's even as important online too. And if you have any team members, go ahead and add those people too, with a little bit of a biography about them. So for example, for the Enterprise Nation team, all of us have a photo and bio there. And I think it's really useful to include that if you have a growing team. And even if you're a family-run business, that would be really nice to see kind of all family members who are pitching into the business. I think that would add a really nice part of the story that makes a lot of sense to add on the About Us page. So we've talked about kind of how to get set up, so how to secure that domain and how to host. And we've talked about how we can build a visual identity with the imagery for our homepage. And we've also talked about the written content of our pages, of our sites. So our About Us page, and also the blog for showcasing our expertise.